We are live for another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. Excuse me. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC Rio. So we've got 13 fights to talk about, and I really want to get this one back because we'll recap last week real quick, and it was not pretty at all. Okay. I'm going to fix that later. Actually, no, it's bothering me. There we go. Much better. All right, let's do a quick recap. I'll say what up to the chat, and then we'll jump into the card. So we had UFC 320, and yeah, I did it to myself, honestly. I made a lot of poor bets. The reads weren't all terrible. There were some really bad reads, some decent reads, but I just forced. I forced way too much. I've come a long way from my old parlay days, and I went back to it on this past Saturday, and it surely cost me. I ended up down minus 5.53 units. I lost on Jusang Yu money line, where I changed my mind last second after the Santos weight miss. I had Nicoll Tennikov against Puna. I still think he can win that fight if he doesn't go for a guillotine every single second he's on the feet. Super frustrating there. Then I had Abus Pfeiffer fight goes at for a half unit. That didn't come close. I had a parlay that did hit. Hardy minus 3.5 spread with Merab Corey over 4.5 rounds. That cashed for 1 unit, but I lost on Vanderford round 3. I lost on a mixed Vanderford parlay. I lost on a Basharat Ankalaev parlay, and I lost a unit on Ankalaev ITD. So it was brutal. Then yesterday for Contender Series, I broke even. Technically, I made just under $1 because I had a parlay with the over 1.5 in the Vologden Martinetti fight. One of the best fights of all time, by the way, but in a sweat and a half to get that over, but we cashed it and parlayed with the under 1.5 in the first fight with that fraud Pergantino. And then I had a 1 unit bet on Rocha Jr. plus 205 for a unit. I thought he'd be competitive. He was not, even though I ran through him. It is what it is. So I broke even, and I'll take it. I'll take it. It could be much worse. At this stage of where I'm at, I'm just glad to not lose money. So for this card, I've already got a few bets, trying to be more careful. Not going to see more than one parlay out of me, and hopefully we can get it back this week. In the chat, we've got Jammer. What's up, Jammer? One of the real ones. Thanks for tuning in. And we got Drone Rookie, another one of the real ones. Thank you for tuning in as well. If you're watching, please hop in the live chat. Talk with me. Always way more fun that way. Also, last week, I did a really quick show for UFC 320 because I was in a rush. And it was like 35 minutes total, I think. I ran through 14 fights. And some people really liked it. Some people prefer the quick speediness. If you want me to speed up my usual shows, just leave a comment. Let me know what you think about that. Do you prefer when I take about an hour? Do you prefer when I get it through with 30 minutes? I can do both because I talk really fast. So you guys just let me know. When I don't have a guest on, it's very easy for me to control how long we go. Unless I start ranting about something, and that I can't prevent. All right, before we hop in, one last thing I want to do. I need to turn on the AC because it's hot in here. All right, and with that, let's rock. First fight of the night. We've got Saimon Oliveira versus Luan Lacerda. Oliveira, 18-6-0, 34 years old, 5'4" with the 72-inch reach. On the other side, Lacerda, 12-3-0. He's 32, so he's 2 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches taller at 5'7". I don't think that's true because Oliveira is pretty big. I don't think he's 5'4". I'm going to guess they're around the same height. And Lacerda is going to have just about the same reach. This is a weird fight, a hard one to predict. I taped this one right before the show, and it's just tricky because with Lacerda, I think he's more skilled, especially in the grappling. I think he puts together mixed martial arts much better than Saimon Oliveira does. And by that, I just mean like Oliveira, he looks good in a lot of areas, but he can't put it all together, and I'll talk about it. But My thing with Lacerda is he's been out for 2 years. I don't really know why. I asked Grok. Grok told me that it was because of injuries, but couldn't tell me what the injuries were. I tried to search. I didn't find anything. If anyone can let me know why he's been out, that would be great. I did do some Instagram stalking, though, and it does seem like he's been in the gym the whole time, so he is still training. And, Lacerda's good. He doesn't have a UFC win yet, but he came in against Saimon. I believe that was on short notice, put up a good fight. If you look at the what's it called? The media scorecards. A lot of people had it for Lacerda. I thought it was a very close fight. Either guy could have gotten it. Although I kind of lean towards Stamen winning. And then he had the Blackshear fight. That fight I couldn't pull up anywhere. Fight Pass, no good. ESPN, long time, no good. So, and I couldn't find it on any of my other sites. So I couldn't watch that fight. I remember it, though. I believe he got stuck on bottom going for something, and then Blackshear just ground and pounded him. I think that's what happened. I just don't remember off the top of my head because it was 2 years ago. And then with Oliveira, you have a guy who on the Contender Series had a really competitive back and forth fight with Jose all day. Oliveira, he has like a Muay Thai style. He's very hunched. He does seem to hit pretty hard. The boxing is okay. Like the hands, he throws occasional elbows. Those are pretty good. His step and knees are nice. I do like those. I do think he targets the body pretty well. The kicks are decent, and he's good in the clinch, but he's very sloppy on the feet. He'll go for spinning stuff when he has no business doing it. He's both of them are hittable, but I think Oliveira is more hittable. I question his chin. I question his durability overall. His cardio is no good. And then he's just weird. Like you look at the Gravely fight. Gravely's taking him down relatively easily. His takedown defense isn't great, but he does a really good job getting back up to his feet every time. The problem is every time he works up to his feet, he does what Veretennikov did, and he just jumps Gilly over and over again. He just jumps Gilly, and I've learned my lesson. If you jump Gilly more than 2 times in a fight, more than 1 time in a fight, I'm not betting on you. No way. Not going through that again. And it can also open up an arm triangle from Lacerda if Oliveira keeps going for that guillotine and doesn't let go. So altogether, like on the feet, I think that Oliveira is a little bit more dangerous. He does seem to hit harder, and he does seem to have more weapons. But Lacerda is a pretty competent striker. He's not terrible. His boxing's decent. His leg kicks are decent. His body kicks are pretty good. So I think it's going to be competitive on the feet. I think Oliveira hits harder, but I do expect Lacerda to wrestle. I don't think he's the best wrestler in the world, but he's very crafty. He can get you down. He can take your back in scramble positions. His transitions on the ground are really slick. So I do think more often than not, Oliveira is going to be pushing him forward, and Lacerda is either going to shoot or he's going to shoot, and Oliveira is going to go guillotine. Lacerda ends up on top. And I think Lacerda ends up subbing him at some point, maybe like round 2, once Oliveira slows down a little bit. But I low-key think a decision could be on the cards too, and the numbers on that are pretty crazy because the bookies do not think this goes the distance, and I understand why. But Lacerda decision plus 450 doesn't seem terrible. I do lean towards him submitting him, though. And what's good, 6'9"? Good to see you in here. But we can move on. All right, next fight. We're not going to spend too much time on it because I have not taped it yet. I haven't been rushing to do so. We have Julia Polastri versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Polastri 13-5-0. She's 27 years old, 5'2" with a 63-inch reach. Kowalkiewicz 16-9-0. She's 39, so she's going to be 12 years older. She's going to be 1 inch taller, and she's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage. I mean, I don't have a ton to say. It's, again, I'm pre-tape. I haven't taped this one yet just because, like, Polastri's minus 450. I know that at this stage of her career, I don't want to bet Karolina. So I haven't been rushing to do it, but I do lean towards Polastri winning. She's a younger fighter. She's still improving her game. She's somebody who I think is a better striker than she is a grappler, but she's been working on the grappling. She used it against Knudsen, ended up losing anyways, but she's working on it. But her striking's pretty good. You know, sometimes she starts a little bit too slow. I don't know why she couldn't do what she did against Lupi in the 3rd round earlier. Maybe it's because Lupi only had to poop going into the 3rd round and not earlier than that. But, you know, she's very aggressive. She's a good striker. She does have power for the division, this Polastri. You know, you don't really see much power at strawweight. I do think that Polastri packs some pop in her punch. But, you know, she can also struggle with grappling, and Kowalkiewicz has mixed in takedowns in the past. So off the top of my head, just pre-tape, I think Polastri off of youth, power, being a better striker right now, but I don't really want to get involved. Again, once I tape it, maybe I'll want to, but I could possibly see an upset also pre-tape. Like I could see Karolina skirting on the outside, landing shots, maybe mixing in a takedown or two. The number just seems kind of crazy on Polastri. That's why I haven't wanted to tape it yet, but I'll go with Polastri decision and we can move on. Next up, we've got Valter Walker versus Mohammed Usman. Walker 14-1-0 with 3 heel hooks in a row. He's 27 years old, which is nuts. He's actually younger than me, which freaks me out because I'm about to turn 28, so he's younger than me. He's 6'6", and he's got a 79-inch reach. Usman on the other side, he's 11-4-0. He's 36, so he's going to be 9 years older. He's going to be 4 inches shorter, and it's going to be about the same reach. This is an interesting fight. I could see it being greasy if Walker doesn't get takedowns because Walker's not a great striker. I don't think that's changed. We don't have the information since the Brzeski fight, really, because none of his fights have been playing out on the feet. But, you know, if he's still the same striker he was against Brzeski, you know, Usman's not an amazing striker either, but it'll play out close on the feet, and Usman probably hits a little bit harder. And he does have a good jab that I think he can do some good work on Walker because Walker pretty hittable. But Usman doesn't throw a ton. Usman's hittable in his own right. And while Usman's takedown defense is pretty good, I think if you get him on his back, a guy like that, he's going to struggle to get up. He's not going to be able to easily just get back up onto his feet. And I do consider Walker a very good wrestler. I consider him a good wrestler. He's not quite at very good for me, but he's a good wrestler. He's explosive. He, you know, dude grew up in Russia. The majority of his career was in Russia. And you can see it in his style. You can see it. He's a polar opposite of his brother. He's not a flashy striker. He's a grappler. And those heel hooks are just crazy. I don't know how he keeps getting away with it. I want to kind of play the overs here just because, you know, Usman tends to go over a lot of the time because he's durable, but he doesn't really finish guys. So because of that, that tends to go over. He's also pretty, like, he doesn't really do much. There's not much of a pace in Usman fights, so they tend to go over. And I think that with Walker, unless he's getting that sub, unless he's getting that heel hook, I feel like most of the time he's going to be going to decision against decent guys. But I don't want to lay. It's not chalk, but I don't want to put money down. I don't want to put a unit down and then Walker just jump heel hook again and get it. I'd lose my mind. So I'm going to stay away from any kind of overs, I think. But I do lean towards Walker getting it done to answer my guy. Wait, you think Johnny? Do I think Johnny what? But I do think Walker wins, Valter Walker. I just think that, you know, his wrestling is better than Usman's. I think that if he can get Usman on his back, Usman will struggle. I think he has more finishing upside in the jiu-jitsu department. And that's really all it comes down to for me. And I could see ground and pound really being a factor here too, because I do think Usman's going to get stuck. Do I think Walker puts his head down and starts throwing running overhands? Yeah, probably. Probably. I don't see why he would change it because that's what he does. I don't think he's a good striker. I do think that Usman's the better striker. I just feel like Walker's the kind of guy where he doesn't make a lot of sense, but he wins anyways. Kind of like a DDP. You know, it took Hamzat to take care of DDP because he just didn't make any sense but beat guys anyways. But in this one, like it does make sense for him to win. Like it's not. I don't think he needs a meme. I think he can win this with a meme by heel hooking for the 4th time in a row. Or I think he could take down Usman and just dominate on the mat. And I kind of lean towards that being the case. I'm going to lean Walker. I'm going to lean Walker decision. I wonder what the number is. Not that great. Plus 225 is not bad, but I'm good. All right, moving on. We've got Lucas Rocha versus Stewart Nicoll. Rocha, he's going to be 17-2-0, 25 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Nicoll, 8-1-0. He's 30, so he's 5 years older. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. This is a really tricky fight for me because it's so binary. With Rocha, you have a guy who's very young still, you know, and he is going to be improving. So because of that, I already lean his way here, and I'll explain why, but the problem with him is the grappling. Like, it's very clear. Every single fight he has where the guy has any semblance of grappling, he struggles. He gets taken down. It happened in the LFA pre-Dana White's Contender Series. It happened on the Contender Series against my guy, Davi Bittencourt. He used to have one of the coolest Tapology profiles in the business. Davi still getting the job done. I believe he's on a win streak since that loss. Davi was taking him down over and over again. And then the second round starts and Lucas just jumps for a flying knee and knocks him out. It was a nice knockout, though. And then against Clayton, Clayton just kind of ran through him, took him down easy. In the second round, was able to get the job done. Rocha, like I said, the takedown defense not great. The other problem is he's giving up his back when he's working his way back up onto the feet. And he's not the most athletic looking flyweight either, but he does hit very hard and he is explosive and he is a good technical striker. On the Nicoll side, you have a guy who has not been really tested. He came into the UFC, I believe, over a year ago now. Yeah, against Aguilar. Aguilar got his guillotine. It happens to the best of us. But it's just tricky because that's the only UFC level info I have on him. And he did get a takedown there and the wrestling looks pretty good. But you look at his regional tape and yeah, he's taking all these guys down. He's able to submit a lot of them. His jiu-jitsu is clearly good. He has a really good back take. His control, once he takes the back, is good. Before that, not so much. But the wrestling's pretty good. The striking seems okay. But he does seem pretty hittable. And he's never really taken a big shot. He's never really fought a hard hitter. And I don't know what that's going to look like if he can't get takedowns and Rocha's landing on him, or if he does get takedowns and Rocha's getting back up to his feet and then landing big shots. How is Nicoll going to handle that? I don't really know. That's why I'm kind of hesitant here, because I lean towards Rocha because he's the younger guy, because he's the better striker, because I think that Nicoll's never taken a big shot. But if I'm going with Rocha, if I'm betting on him, then I'm making a big assumption here that he's improved his grappling and that he can handle, back takes and all that, because Nicoll will wrestle. And Nicoll, I think, does have the wrestling to get him down. Nicoll does have the back take, I think, to be able to take advantage of Rocha giving up his back when he's working his way back up to his feet. So I can really see a path for both guys. I think it's a really binary fight. I think it's a good fight. I'm going to lean with the hometown fighter just because for the reasons I said, younger, more powerful. I think he can work up to his feet and knock out Nicoll. And that's what I'm going to pick. We'll go knockout round 2. But I can 100% see a world where Nicoll gets the job done. I don't think he submits Rocha. I think if Nicoll wins, it's probably a decision. But I could see a world where Nicoll's taking him down, getting the control time because he takes the back and he gets the decision. It's plus 250 for Nicoll decision, which I don't hate. But yeah, it's a fight that I'm not really dying to play at the moment, but I do lean towards the Rocha side. Next up, we have Irina Alekseeva versus Beatriz Mesquita. Alekseeva 5'3" She's 35 years old, 5'8" with the 66-inch reach. Mesquita on the other side, she's going to be 5-0. She's going to be 34. She's 1 year younger. She's going to be 4 inches shorter. And she's going to have about the same reach. Now, I will say for Mesquita, she's at a pretty big size disadvantage, but it's not the first time. She was much smaller than Sierra Dinwiddie. Is that her name? Dinwiddie, yeah. And that didn't really stop her. And, I'd be a lot more concerned about the size if Alekseeva was some kind of slick striker with really good range management. But, she's not. Alekseeva's not. I don't know what to make of her. I had her to win ITD against Claudia Segula. I was like, the gap on the ground isn't even close. And what does she do? She doesn't even try to take Segula down. And she gets outstruck because her striking's not good. She throws very wide with really wide hooks. She does have a good amount of power for the division, but she's just really sloppy on the feet, super hittable. Her takedown defense is okay. I do think she can be taken down, though. She can get stuck on her back, especially if she thinks she's going to go for some subs, like the one she got against Egger, which honestly is really impressive that she got that. I just really don't think it's going to work against Mesquita, who comes from a really high-level jiu-jitsu background. And I don't think Alekseeva's judo throws are going to work against Mesquita either. So on the Mesquita side, I look at her and it's like, I have questions. She's never left the second round. What's her cardio look like when she gets pushed? On the feet, she looks okay, but can she take a shot? Because Alekseeva does hit hard and Mesquita seems pretty hittable to me. Her striking's cleaner than Alekseeva's because she'll actually throw straight down the pipe, not like this, like Alekseeva, but Mesquita's not really a comfortable striker, so I don't really see her taking a big advantage over Alekseeva. I always say if somebody throws sloppy, throws wide, if you throw straight, you're going to land first, and that's the case here too, but I don't know that Mesquita's slick enough to take advantage. And her wrestling's really not that amazing either, Mesquita. She's a jiu-jitsu woman, but her wrestling's not not that good. So if Alekseeva can keep this on the feet, and she just keeps walking forward, throwing big bombs, I can see her giving Mesquita problems. But realistically, what I think is going to happen is I think Mesquita is going to get the takedown, whether that's because she actually just takes her down or Alekseeva goes for a knee bar or something. Either way, I think at some point Mesquita does end up on top. And I do think she'll probably submit Alekseeva, but I think, like, in terms of a bet, what I was looking at, because sub is, I think at this point it's favored. It's not even plus money. I think it opened plus money. Now it's favored, if I'm not mistaken. Mesquita, yeah, it's favored, minus 130, minus 125. But her KO is like plus 550, plus 650 I'm seeing. And I'm kind of tempted on the KO because how many times have we seen examples where somebody is a much better grappler, they have a much better ground game, they come from a jiu-jitsu background, but when they get on the ground, they're so dominant they don't necessarily get the sub. They get a TKO instead because they're just in a dominant position and they can just let it go. And this just happened to me where Curtis Campo on the Contender Series, I knew he had a tremendous advantage on the ground, and I took his sub or decision line. And what happens? He just gets a really dominant performance, but it's a TKO. It's not a sub. So when I get spots like this and TKO is plus 650, but sub is minus 130, I feel like the way to do it is play the TKO or the KO or the TKO, because I can 100% see a situation here where Mesquita gets on top and either is able to like pin down an arm of Alekseeva and rain down ground and pound, or get into full mount and rain down ground and pound, take the back, flatten her out, rain down ground and pound, or Alekseeva goes for a knee bar, isn't able to get it, Mesquita just punches her in. I think that all of those are on the table. So that's the only way I could play this fight personally, but I'll pick Mesquita sub because I think that's the most likely outcome. I'll go round 2, and we'll move on. Next up, we have Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Peterson. Petrino, 12-2-0, 28 years old, 6'2" with a 77.5-inch reach. Peterson, 10-3-0. He's 30. He's 2 years younger. He's 1 inch shorter, and he's at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. So I can't say that I'm the biggest fan of Petrino moving up to heavyweight, but I get it. He wasn't having his way at light heavyweight. He got caught in it was a guillotine against Smith, I'm pretty sure. And then he got knocked out by Jacoby. I think he wanted to go to an easier weight class. Didn't really want to take the risks at light heavyweight. And I can get it. I mean, the heavyweight division has been empty for the last year. They've been filling it up this year, signing a lot of random people. And we're getting to the point where the majority of the heavyweight division is either new signings with very few professional fights, or light heavyweights who have moved up to heavyweight because it's easier, like Petrino, Nichukwu, Span. There's been a lot of cases like that. But in this particular fight, I think that Petrino should get it done. I do think that, on the feet, he's a better striker. I think even at heavyweight, he hits harder. He's even at heavyweight, up a weight class, he's going to be stronger. He's going to be more physical. He looked like he moved up properly in his first heavyweight fight. This one right here against our guy, Austin Lane. I believe he weighed in like 240 or something like that. And he looked good. He looked physical. He looked strong. And I do think he's going to be able to hang with these guys. And I think with Peterson's boxing isn't bad, but he's very, very hittable. I think he's pretty slow. And I just think that Petrino's the better striker, the more powerful striker. And then this is where I think it can get interesting. I don't think that Peterson's going to have an easy time taking down Petrino. I think that Peterson's a very good wrestler, but Petrino, I do lean towards him having solid takedown defense, and I lean towards him being able to stuff takedowns from Peterson. But I've never really seen Petrino off his back, and I do wonder if Peterson gets on top. Like, is Petrino going to be able to get back up, or is he going to get stuck? Because Peterson's a big boy, and he's got heavy top pressure, and he's got good ground and pound. So I don't have enough to pick Peterson to win, and I do think I'm fairly confident that Petrino's going to get it done. I think Petrino will probably find a knockout at some point, or a decision, honestly. Maybe I'll lean towards a decision. But, at this price, I need to look at it a bit more. But I do think that an upset's on the table. If you put a gun to my head and said bet a money line specifically, I'd pick Peterson. But I do think that the most likely outcome is a Petrino win, whether it's a knockout or a decision. I just wonder what it looks like if he gets put on his back by Peterson, because Peterson's probably the best wrestler he's fought to date, I would say. And no one's really been attempting that many takedowns on him. And We've never seen him off his back. So, yeah, I just think there's too many questions here to make Petrino a minus 320 or whatever favorite. And I do think there's a path for a Peterson upset. So that's where I'm at. I'll pick Petrino to win, though. I'm not super confident on Peterson. Fukuyu Sugma. I think the line is wide on the Petrino versus Peterson fight. It's just a big step up for Petrino. I mean, I don't know if it's a step up. I'm not the highest on Peterson. It's not like his wins are anything crazy, but yeah, I agree with you that the line might be a bit too wide. That I can agree with. Next up, we have a fight that I've had a very hard time getting a confident read on. We have Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. Filho, 16-4-0, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 68.5-inch reach. On the other side, Carpenter, 8-1-0. He's 29, so he's 3 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and he's going to be at a 2.5-inch reach disadvantage. So I think these guys are really well matched. I think the only thing that Filho is a lot better than Clayton Carpenter at is maybe jiu-jitsu. And then with Carpenter, I just feel like he's more of a dog. That's kind of the edge I give him. And I think he's a better striker and better offensive wrestler. But the offensive wrestling thing is, I guess, semi-debatable. I'm pretty confident that Carpenter's a better offensive wrestler, at least from my eyes. I think that in terms of who has better offensive wrestling, I think it's Carpenter. And I think that while Filho has decent takedown defense, I do think he can be taken down, and I think Carpenter can do it. Now, Filho also has good wrestling, and he showed pretty impressive physicality in the Nascimento fight. And I'm sure he could get Clayton down, but I just also feel like Clayton's going to be harder to take down than Nascimento. Nascimento's sometimes happy to be on the ground. Clayton, he's happy to be on the ground, but only if he's on top. He doesn't really want to be on his back. Now, yes, he accepted full guard against Tagir. That's fair. But I just feel like Tagir is a much better wrestler than Filho, and I think Clayton was just a little bit nervous about taking too many risks to get back up against a guy like Tagir, because Tagir was a really big step up for Clayton. He went from Rocha to Tagir on Bekov. So I think part of him accepting full guard there was him just being nervous, but he still ended up getting back to his feet. And I do think that I just think when push comes to shove in a greasy fight where it's really back and forth and it's tough, I just trust Clayton to be there more than I do with Filho. That's the best I can describe it. And then on the feet, I feel like Clayton's a little bit of a better striker. Filho does hit hard and he has good hooks. And we've seen his power like in that Treveria fight. But I think Clayton's a little bit sharper, and I think Clayton has been improving in the striking. He comes from a more grappling background. I do like his camp a lot. Also, MMA Lab for his weight class, flyweight, bantamweight. I think it's really, really good. And yeah, it's a really close fight for me. I can understand backing Filho because he's just more experienced. The fight is close everywhere. He has a jiu-jitsu advantage and he's fighting at home. I can understand that being enough for people. I just kind of lean towards Clayton being the guy more likely to end up on top and being a better striker. And I feel like he's the more likely guy where if push comes to shove, where in the third round things are tough, I think he's the one more likely to be pushing the fight, pushing the pace, and trying to get that dub. So I'm going to pick Clayton by decision. I think the over is not a bad look, but it's not my most confident pick ever. Starting off the main card, we have Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. Lucas Almeida is going to be 15-4-0, 34 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Aswell 10-3-0. He's 25, so he's 9 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. So I love Aswell. I've been high on him. I backed him in all his fights under the UFC banner. I backed him on the Contender Series against Grod. I felt like he won. I backed him against Oki. He gave a good account of himself. I just like guys like him at plus money because he gives it his all. He's always moving forward. He's always throwing a lot of output, and he's a tough dude. But now he's a favorite. Now we're making him the favorite over Lucas Almeida, and I just kind of feel like this is almost like a Kuwamba repeat, except that Kuwamba is more technical than Aswell, but Aswell throws a lot more and does a lot more than Kuwamba. But I do feel like Aswell, he's just, as much as I love the guy, he's pretty basic. It's pressure, 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 output, 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 1-2, 1-2, occasional kick, jab, 1-2, 1-2. That's his game. That's the majority of his game. And he's very hittable, and he's very, very dependent on putting you on your back foot. You look at the Oki fight, right? When is he winning? when Oki's backing up. When does he start losing? The second Oki's like, no, I'm going to be the one to start moving forward. And that's when you see Aswell start to just take shots. He doesn't have much offense off his back foot. He doesn't have anything really once he's not the guy pressuring forward. So the big question for me here was, okay, is Almeida going to accept just being on the back foot? Or can he push Aswell back? And with Almeida, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes he's more than happy to be off his back foot. But I will say that he's good off his back foot. He's good at counters. His lateral movement's not bad. He can be flat-footed at times, but he like when he gets his back to the cage, you'll see him kind of circle off. He doesn't really kind of stay there and just let guys land on him. His kicks are good. His counters are good off the back foot. And then there's fights where he is moving forward, where he is the guy landing the shots, and he is the guy putting his opponent on the back foot, and he's pressuring. So when I look at it, I'm like, okay, Almeida's much bigger than him. He's going to have a pretty sizable size advantage. Both guys are very hittable, but I think Almeida hits a lot harder. Aswell throws a lot of volume, but Almeida throws pretty good output too. Not the same as Aswell, but you kind of see it with Aswell's opponents. Like Bogdan Grad doesn't throw that much either. Oki doesn't throw that much either, but they still landed over 100 significant strikes because Aswell just has no defense and is always in your face, so it's there. So I feel like Almeida's output's going to be there. His power, I think he hits a lot harder than Aswell does. I think he's a cleaner striker. He's the one throwing straight down the pipe. I think he has a nasty left hook when Aswell closes the distance with his lack of defense. That's going to be there. And I also think the Almeida leg kicks could make a really big difference. He kicks the legs really nicely, and you start to take away those legs. What's Aswell going to do? Then he can't pressure as easy. So for me, I feel like you kind of have to take the dog here when, you know, you have all the advantages I just said when he's the bigger guy. He's fighting at home. I didn't mention that. He's fighting at home. He's the bigger guy. He's the cleaner striker. He's going to have a comparable output. He hits harder. He can fight off his back foot, but he can put his opponents on their back foot. The leg kicks. I just feel like you got to go with the dog here, or dog or pass. So I am going to pick Almeida to get it done. I lean towards the decision. I like the decision numbers, but I'm hesitant to play the decision just because I think he can knock out Aswell as well, because Aswell is tough. But he's had 2 fights under the UFC banner, right? One on the Contender Series, one in the actual UFC. He's absorbed, I think it was 230 significant strikes already in 2 fights. Like, that chin's going to go soon, and you're only 25, and you're already taking all this damage. Like, even like the first example that came to my mind, Joshua Van, about to fight for a title, same camp, actually, very similar style, just cleaner than Aswell, but similar style. And before he got where he got knocked out. He got knocked out by Charles Johnson because of the lack of defense, because that eventually all those shots add up. And because of that, I think Almeida can knock him out as well. So Almeida is going to be the pick for me. Shout out to my guy, Marcus. Thank you for tuning in, brother. Make sure you guys are checking out my guy, Marcus, on Twitter. An enjoyable follow. And we can move on. Next up, we have Ricardo Ramos versus Kaan Ofli. Ramos, she's going to be 17-7 and 30 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Ofli, 11-4-1. He's 32. He's 2 years older. He's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage. This fight's so tricky because you have 2 guys who, all right, they're kind of different, but like on the Ramos side, you have a guy who has all the skills, but just can't put them all together and is extremely inconsistent. And on the other side, you have Kaan Ofli, who so far has failed to show that he's UFC level. But, you know, at least with Ofli, like, okay, piece by piece, right? On the feet, who's a better striker? Ramos, very little doubt in my mind. He's just much cleaner, much faster. I think he hits harder, and he's got way more weapons. He's got all these kicks. He's got knees. He's got elbows. He's got everything. He's got good, decent combinations, but sometimes he's throwing a little bit too much, like one piece at a time. That is an issue with him. But he just has way more weapons on the feet. The problem is he's not really putting together a lot of output. Like I said, he's not putting together a lot of combinations. When he is, they're nice, but a lot of the time it's just one shot and done. And I just feel like he's very inconsistent on the feet. And with Ofli, Ofli's not great. Definitely not at distance because he's got a really tiny reach with 66 inches. But when he closes the distance, his boxing's not bad, and he's got some pop to his punch. He's not terrible. And, you know, the thing with Ramos, you put him on his back foot and you take away the kicks, he doesn't have much left. He's got the spinning stuff and a few punches, and that's really it. And I think Ofli can handle that. So if Ofli's throwing those leg kicks, which are solid, and it's closing the distance, and taking away the kicks, I can see him making Ramos uncomfortable. and I can see him having some success on the feet. And then with the grappling, I mean, again, who's a better wrestler? I think it's Ramos. Who has better jiu-jitsu? I think it's Ramos, but how many times has Ramos been submitted by guys who on paper don't have as good jiu-jitsu as he does? More than once. And it's a guillotine. It's the front chokes. And what does Ofli happen to have that's very good? He's got a very good guillotine. And he's got good submissions in general. He's got good grappling in general. So I would not be shocked at all if he ended up subbing Ramos. I also would not be shocked at all if he was able to take down Ramos. Ramos has shown solid takedown defense, but I could see him being controlled in the clinch where Ofli is very strong. And I can see Ofli getting the takedowns, getting on top, and Ramos just either being too happy to play off of his back or just not caring enough to get back onto his feet. So I have no interest on the Ramos side, even though I think he's better everywhere. He just doesn't put it together. I forget what the saying is, but let me think how to say this properly. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the sum is less than the parts. All right. His parts are great, but they just don't add up well. And he ends up just not being great. And he's very inconsistent. And he probably should be 0-4 here because I don't really think he beat Kulabau. So, and I was here live when he knocked out Chavez, and I actually had Chavez, so that sucked. But anyways, this is a fight where it's tricky, but I am tempted on the Ofli side just because he's going to try. And that might be enough to beat Ramos. Ramos is just really inconsistent. And while I think he's the better guy, if you're tough, you're durable like Ofli, and you have some semblance of grappling and you're strong, you're going to move forward, take away the space, use your leg kicks, and you're going to try hard, you can beat Ramos. And I think Ofli can do it. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to pick Ofli to get it done, get his first UFC win. I've already lost money on him against Santos. I lost money on him against Naimov. I haven't bet on him yet, but maybe we do it one more time. And that's a great segue. If you want my bets, my notes, and my breakdowns, you can only get them in one place, the House of Stims Discord. The link is in the description of this video, and we're going to move on. Next up, we have Jonathan Diniz versus Mario Pinto. Diniz, he's going to be 9-1-0. He's 34 years old, 6'4" with a 79.5-inch reach. On the other side, we have Mario Pinto. He's going to be 10-0 undefeated. He's 27, so he's 7 years younger. He's going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have just about the same reach. So I'm pretty surprised that the line flipped here. I guess I'm not that surprised because pre-tape, I leaned Diniz also. But after the tape, I felt like Pinto is the side. And look, I can understand why people are backing Diniz. Fighting at home, much more experienced striker coming from a kickboxing background. Pinto most of the time chooses to strike. And Pinto, he's been hurt. He got hurt against Austin Lane. So I think people are leaning on that. But I have a few things with Diniz. Like, Diniz is a good kickboxer. I cannot take that away from him. And he does hit pretty hard. He's got good kicks, good leg kicks. The punches obviously are very good. The boxing. He's a solid striker. But are we sure his power isn't overrated? Like, he's supposed to be some kind of crazy power puncher, but if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't knocked out anyone since the Contender Series. Oh, well, Austin Lane, but do we really count that? And Lane took him down and kept him on his back for the entire first round. And then, Williams, Tybura, Hines, and he didn't knock out Williams, didn't drop Tybura, but didn't knock him out. And then Hines, he didn't knock out. Hines, I just popped for something. Maybe that's why he didn't get knocked out. But I'm just wondering, funny, the Segway guy drove off a cliff on his Segway. I'm weak, Daz. Good to see you in the chat, though. But anyways, with Diniz, I just feel like his power might be a little bit overrated is where I was going with that. But he does seem to hit hard, and he is a good striker. And the takedown defense isn't bad either. The initial takedown defense actually isn't bad. He does some of the right things. But once he gets on his back, he's got nothing. He just gets stuck on his back, and he just waits for the round to end and hopes to get back up to his feet. Now, with Pinto, you have to go really, really deep to get his sub win. I mean, to get him grappling and to actually see him take somebody down. I'm going to pull it up now because I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. But you have to go all the way down, here, to Maxwell Dejantu Nana. At the time, Maxwell Nana was 0-0. And if you just glance on the record, you see 0-0, you see rear naked. You're like, oh, he just took down some bum, submitted him, whatever. And then you pull up this guy and you look at him. Like, I started looking at him 7-1-0 now as a pro. He's in the PFL. He got the win in PFL Africa over Grog, who's a hilarious fighter, if you know anything about him. He's that guy, if you guys remember, back a while ago, forget the promotion, I think it was Aries, where he just comes out with his hands completely low and just walks forward, and the guy throws one head kick and just knocks Grog right out. And everybody was saying it was rigged, but that's how Grog fights. I don't think it was rigged. But anyways, this Nana guy, he's apparently a Sambo champ, like world champ or something, and he's a grappler. Now he's 7-1-0. And if you watch that fight with Pinto took him down easy, took his back and just subbed him in the first round, just ran right through him. And since then, he hasn't tried to grapple. But you look at his regional fights, and like Benjamin Sehic, if you know who he is, he's a guy he's a guard puller at heavyweight. Like, he'll roll for heel hooks. He'll just pull guard. He's just nonstop trying to grapple you and get you down to the ground, except he doesn't have the wrestling to do it himself, so he hopes you follow him. So why would Pinto wrestle him? You don't really have to. Just wait for him to pull guard. And then Kasim Aris is a heavyweight who's very small, but he's a wrestler. So Pinto's not going to wrestle him. And then Camacho, he just knocked him out in the Contender Series. But in this fight, I just think that there's a very good chance that Pinto just decides, you know what, let me take him down. And I do think he can get Deniz down. And if he gets him down, I don't see why he can't submit him, because I think Deniz is a 0 off his back. I don't think his takedown defense is 0. I think it's actually decent. But I think his ground game off his back is 0. And, they're hanging up crazy numbers on the sub. They're hanging up crazy numbers. We're talking plus 1,400, plus 12, plus 1,000 on Pinto sub when it's his easiest path to victory. So that doesn't make sense to me. And even put that aside, I think Pinto can win on the feet too. I don't think this is grapple or die for him. I think he can win a striking matchup too. Pinto's very young, but he's already very skilled. You can see it. Like, he's one of those guys that you look at him, you're like, okay, he's going to be here a while. He's going to do very well in the division. And I feel that way about Pinto. Yeah, there's some things I don't love. Sometimes his output's not the best. Him getting hurt by Lane isn't the best look, but Lane is super athletic. So to get hurt by him, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's a good thing you recovered and were able to come back and get your own finish. And I think that Pinto's a good striker in his own right, and he can land good shots on Deniz. And because of that, I just think that if Pinto is the younger guy, he's the bigger guy. I think I don't want to call him cleaner, but I feel like I don't know how to describe it. I feel like he's a little bit better at distance. At like kicking range, I think he's a little bit better, whereas Deniz is a little better once he gets closer. But if I think Pinto's competitive on the feet, he's a bigger guy, the much younger guy by 7 years. And I think he has a tremendous grappling advantage if he uses it. And I think he has good fight IQ. Like, I think he's the side, and he's the underdog now, which I don't really think is correct. So for me, it's Pinto. We're going to go Pinto sub. And we're going to go Pinto sub round 2. Picking a lot of round 2s today. Ooh, I'm hyped to break this fight down. Daz saying Pinto Deniz goes the distance is plus 200. If you think Pinto not at all that, I bet it. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I could see it 100% going the distance if Pinto doesn't get that sub. But, if fight goes as plus 200, I feel like sub at plus 1,400, I feel like that's more of an incorrect line based off of what read I have. So that's where I'm at. But before we get into this fight, let's do a quick cheers. Happy Wednesday. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitter, like, subscribe or follow, comment, retweet, whatever. Just help me out. It really helps. My algorithm got butchered when I was gone for 3 weeks after I got married. Been trying to make a comeback. So help the algo out. Come on. Cheers. All right. Next up, we have Vicente Luque versus Yoel Alvarez. Luque, 23-11-1, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 76-inch reach. On the other side, Alvarez, 22-3-0. He's 32. He's 1 year younger. He's going to be, isn't that crazy that he's 1 year younger? He's going to be 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage. So, hey, my guy, what's good, bro? But How nuts is it that he's 30, that he's 1 year younger? Luque is like a 50-year-old man at this point, and Alvarez is like at the peak of his career. And it's a shame that Alvarez had to move up from lightweight, because seeing his current form, it would have been really interesting to see him up against the top guys. And honestly, him and Topuria would have done numbers if he could have gotten that far. But I get it. The body just couldn't do it anymore. He's 6'3", and look at Sam Patterson. Patterson had a terrible time at lightweight. Well, he only had one fight, but got knocked out. And then he moves up, and now he's a menace, and he's just on a run. And I think Alvarez is going to be similar. I think Alvarez knew this has been coming for a long time. From what I understand, he's wanted to make this move for a while. It's just the UFC really wanted to keep him at lightweight. And I get it. I get why, because I think he stands out less at welterweight than he did at lightweight. But if the body can't do it anymore, the body can't do it anymore. It's better this than him coming in for another 155-pound fight and missing weight or something, and then everybody being mad at him. So good on him for moving up, and I'm sure he's going to fill in well. He's like, watch, he's going to look big. He's going to look big against Luque, even though he's the one moving up. And I can 100% understand him being the big favorite, right? Because Luque, he's on record saying, I don't want to take punches anymore, because he had a brain hemorrhage after the Nicoll fight. And Alvarez is a very dangerous striker. Alvarez has put together the striking very nicely, and he's got a very good clinch game. He's got really nice knees and elbows, and he can 100% hurt Luque on the feet. And then on the ground, if Luque gets on top, Alvarez could submit him. He has nasty front chokes. We just saw Luque get caught by Holland in the Darce, and it's happened to him before. But here's my thing. We're not just talking about Alvarez as a favorite. We're talking about Alvarez as a, what is it now? Minus 550 favorite, right? A guy who historically has zero takedown defense. It has improved against Elvis Brenner. He actually stuffed all the takedowns. But historically, his takedown defense isn't great. And historically, he's happy to be on his back because he's so dangerous. Yeah, Luque can get caught in a Darce. Okay. But let's say he doesn't. Let's say the Darce doesn't work. Or if it wasn't there, and Luque gets the takedown. Are we sure that Luque can't just stay on top? Like, are we positive that Luque, as the bigger, like, Alvarez has defended takedowns now against Brenner, but Brenner's not a massive lightweight. Now he's going up to welterweight against a career welterweight in Luque, who has shown he can wrestle. He did it against RDA. He's done it. Are we positive that Luque can't just get on top and crouch sniff for 15 minutes? Because I'm not positive. Now, if we were talking like minus 175, Alvarez, you wouldn't even hear a word from me, because, you know, I can make a ton of arguments of how Alvarez wins off his back. He can, you know, throw those elbows, and Luque is like, oh my God, I'm getting hit again, and either quits somehow or gets caught in like a triangle. I can see that. Like, I can see how Luque can lose even if he's getting takedowns, but we're talking minus 500 plus 400, okay? With a guy who's moving up in weight, who, while he has improved in the striking, is still hittable. And we just saw Luque be pretty competitive with Holland on the feet. I know now everybody hates Holland. Just one fight ago, they were laying all the chalk on him to win against D-Raw. Now he sucks, of course, because that's how it worked. But, you know, Luque looked competitive against Holland on the feet, in my opinion, and he's always been a really good striker. The problem was that he got knocked out, had a brain bleed, a brain hemorrhage, and now doesn't like taking shots. But he looked okay against Holland on the feet. And if the chin and the mental is there, big if, but again, we're talking about a plus 400. If the chin and the mental is there, we're not talking about a big gap on the feet at all. And Luque's a good striker, and he's fast too. Even now, he's still pretty fast. So, yeah, Alvarez is more dangerous. Alvarez didn't have a brain bleed. Alvarez more power, maybe, but that's a maybe. I don't know, because he's moving up in weight, and Luque hits hard too. I just think that Luque is going to be competitive on the feet, and I think Luque can crouch sniff. So this plus 400 is really, really tempting to me, and I might get to it. I might. I'm not going to pick him to win. That would be a little, I think, pushing it. I'll pick Alvarez. I feel like what happens is Alvarez hurts him on the feet. Luque takes him down, and then Alvarez submits him. Like, again, I'm picking the second round, and I just don't like picking the first. But I don't know, man. I really, really do think that Luque can win. And I do feel like you kind of have to take a shot at plus 400. So I might I haven't yet. If you want my bets, my notes, my breakdowns, you can only get those at one place at the House of Stims Discord, link in the description of this video. But I haven't done anything yet there, and I'm not sure if I will. All right, next up, we have our co-main event of the evening. We've got Deiveson Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. Figgy is 24-5-1, 37 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. On the other side, Jackson, he's going to be 15-2-0, 33. He's 5'10" with a 75.5-inch reach. So he's going to be 5 inches taller, and he's going to have I hate math, a 7-inch reach advantage. So this is a weird fight for me. Like, I 100% get why Jackson's a favorite, and I won't even, like I'm going to pick him to win. I'm going to pick him to win by decision. But I feel like the number's kind of off. Like, I get why he's a favorite, right? Very athletic. He's the younger dude by a big margin. Not big, but by a margin. 4 years younger. In fight years, he's much younger. He's taking way less damage, way less wear and tear because he's fought a lot less. And he does have more power, I think, at this division for sure at bantamweight. And I do think that, like, yeah, those are his advantages, honestly. And I guess he's a better striker at range because of that, because of the really big reach, and he uses it well. He's got a good jab and a really clean 1-2 down the pipe. I just wonder if this line's not too wide because, like, Figgy, yeah, he hasn't been looking great, but against who? You know, Corey, who just got a title shot and didn't do terrible against Merab. All things considered, Peter Yan's a beast, and you know, and then he won every other fight he had at bantamweight once he moved up. And you look at Jackson's record. I mean, I guess Marcos or Blackshear are his most impressive wins, but he one-shotted Blackshear. We don't know how that fight plays out if it gets extended. And the Marcos fight is why I'm kind of questioning this because, like, okay, so I backed Marcos there, but I backed Marcos because he can strike. I didn't think that Marcos would be the one grappling and Marcos would be the one holding up Jackson against the fence. Like, I want to pull up the stats real quick just so I get this right. But Marcos got 3 takedowns, right? He got 3 takedowns and he got 5.5 minutes of control time. A lot of it was against the cage. Marcos is a pure striker. Pure striker. He made that fight close because he was clinching and grappling, and you know, my bet wasn't the worst bet ever, but my read was way off. But it just makes me wonder, okay, if a striker in Marcos can come out there, and he's smaller than Jackson, but he can come out there and clinch up Jackson and keep him there, and he can actually take down Jackson and get some control time, why can't Figgy? Yeah, I get it. Figgy's a lot older. Figgy's a lot slower now, but Figgy's very strong and very physical, even at bantamweight. Figgy's a good wrestler, and Figgy's got really good jiu-jitsu. Would it be super shocking to anybody if Figgy just held Jackson up against the fence? It would be boring, but that can still win you fights. Look at Batista Aldo, you know? And then would it be that crazy if Figgy took him down? If Marcos was able to? I don't think that's that crazy either. And I do think that Figgy has better jiu-jitsu. I think that's pretty clear. And I do think he's a better grappler. Now, Jackson can wrestle too. I will say that Jackson does have good wrestling, but like, I don't know if he's going to take Figgy down. He probably could, but I lean towards Figgy being able to keep it on the feet a lot of the time. So, and then you look at the striking, like Jackson, again, hits a lot harder, I think, at this weight class. And I do really like his straight shots, but his output's like not great. And he's very tentative at times. And he's like not pushing the finish a lot of the times, even when he's getting multiple knockdowns. And if he does that here, like Figgy can probably keep it close too. Like Figgy's a technical striker. He's gonna have to figure out how to close the distance. And we are working with a bigger cage, but if Montel's not knocking him out, this is probably going to be a really close fight. So I don't have a bet here. I probably will not because I don't really want to fade Montel, and Figgy's on the older side. But I am going to think about it. I am going to think about it because I can see a path, and I feel like if Marcos was able to do what he did, being a pure striker, I don't see why Figgy can't do that and then add some wrinkles in and actually get the win. So I'll pick Jackson, but it's definitely a dog or pass. Daz rooting for Figgy. Hey, either one of those. If I end up on the dog, I'll take it. As of now, I'm not on the dog, though. All right, we're up to the main event of the evening. We've got Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. If you're in the chat, please like, subscribe, comment, anything. It all really, really helps. If you're watching later, please do it anyways. It still really helps. And we've got Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. Oliveira, 35-11-0. He's 35 years old, 5'10", with a 74-inch reach. Gamrot on the other side, 25-3-0, 34. He's 1 year younger. He's the same height, but he's at a 4-inch reach disadvantage. This is a really good fight, and it's a tricky fight. I think it's a really tricky fight. Jammer, no way. Which quote do you have? Drinking no thanks. Good to see you in here. And Duke Bronx gets everybody hype. Honestly, it makes me feel left out sometimes because everybody loves Oliveira, and my fanship just never really got there. Like, I like him. I like him, and I think he's super fun. But I was never like, yes, Oliveira, yes. Never one of those guys. I'm more of a psycho. I'm more of like a Merab, yes, or even Bilal, yes. But Oliveira, for some reason, never got me going. But anyways, so this is an interesting matchup. Like, first off, I do want to talk about the fact that Oliveira, I know that he's on a full camp and Gamrot's not, and Gamrot has, like, people say Gamrot's cardio is not good. I disagree pretty strongly. I think it's good. I think just sometimes the visuals aren't great, but he pushes through. Like, he looked good in the late rounds against Sarukian. I didn't think he won that fight, but still, I consider Sarukian possibly the best lightweight alive right now. So, and I know people won't like that, but it is what it is. But anyways, like, I don't think his cardio is bad, Gamrot. And while Oliveira has been prepping for a 5-rounder, Oliveira's been prepping for a striker. And I don't know if the rumors are true, but there was a lot of talk about the fact that Oliveira didn't want this fight because he just spent his whole camp preparing for a pure striker. And now he's getting a guy who doesn't want to strike, who's going to try to grapple him every damn second of the entire fight. And I can understand why he didn't want it. But Gamrot on the other side very much wanted this fight. And I get why, because he wants to finally get that title shot. He was literally a replacement. He was a replacement in which fight? I think it might have been Islam Charles. I don't remember. Not replacement. The backup fighter. He was supposed to be the backup fighter at some point for the title fight. Didn't get it. He wants to finally get that title shot. That's why he wanted this fight so bad. But I think he also thinks he can win it, and I think he's going to win it. I can see where it gets dicey, for sure. You just look at the Dariush fight, right? Dariush easily gets the takedown, gets control, gets a little uncomfortable. Oliveira gets on his feet, knocks him out. I get it. I also still feel like even though Gamrot's been hurt a lot, I feel like the recovery is better than Dariush. And I feel like he's not going to get off from being on top the way that Dariush did. Now, Gamrot doesn't have the best control. That's why you look at his UFC stats. That's why he has 10, 15, 20 takedowns in fights, but not 20, but you get what I'm saying. But I'm not super worried about the control because it's like, do I want him just laying flat on top of Charles? Yes and no. I do, but like that can also be really dangerous. But if Charles keeps getting back up, but Gamrot just keeps taking him down anyways, keeps taking him down, that I'm a little bit more comfortable with because Oliveira's never going to really get to settle with a submission attempt unless he goes like Darce, but I feel like Gamrot's going to survive it. And, you know, we saw in the Sarukian fight, again, I think Sarukian is better than Gamrot, but Gamrot was able to out-grapple Sarukian to an extent, and if Arman was able to get on top of Oliveira and stay safe, I kind of lean towards Gamrot being able to do that too. And I just love the way this dude chain wrestles. Gamrot's chain wrestling is just insane, and Oliveira, as it is, he's not going to try that hard to keep it on the feet because he's very confident off of his back. But even once he starts scrambling, like Gamrot's just going to keep going and going and going and going and going. So I think Gamrot has a lot of wrestling upside here, obviously. I do worry a little bit about when we're on the feet because I think Oliveira hits harder and he's a dangerous striker. But let's be real, both of their chins are gone. Both not gone. I don't think Gamrot's is gone, but both of their chins are shaky. Both of them get hurt. But I think Oliveira's is worse, and I get it. Oliveira hits harder than Gamrot does, but Gamrot hits pretty hard too. I think that's a little bit underrated about him, but he hits pretty hard too, and I don't think it takes the hardest shot to get Oliveira dropped. So I wouldn't count out Gamrot on the feet either, but I think ultimately he's really just going to be takedown, rinse, repeat, greasy moment where Oliveira has a close sub attempt, Gamrot escapes, and here we go again. Back on the feet, Oliveira, few combinations, maybe he lands a knee. Oh no, Gamrot's hurt. Gamrot, boom, single leg, Oliveira back up. Gamrot re-wrestle, rounds over. Gamrot won it just because you got like 20 takedowns, and Oliveira just couldn't get any offense going because Gamrot kept shooting. That's kind of what I think ends up happening. I like Gamrot. I like him by decision. I am a little bit concerned. Oliveira fighting at home, Oliveira on a full camp, whether he was preparing for a striker or not. And, you know, he is dangerous everywhere, and he is scary to be on top of. But I think Gamrot's got it in him. I think Gamrot really wants this, and I think that just the way he grapples and the way his wrestling is, it's going to be very tricky for even Oliveira to deal with. So ultimately, that's going to be my pick. It's going to be Gamrot. And look at that. We finished in just about an hour. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I'll run through my picks one more time, and then I'll get you guys out of here. Shorts will probably drop tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Friday, but they will be out this week. And once again, if you want my bets, my notes, my breakdowns, only at the House of Stims Discord, link in the description of the video. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. Drinking Nothing saying, do Bronx, check left hook for the win. Jammer saying the quote he got tattooed was the illuminated by God after beating Gaethje. Okay. Oliveira going to land the sneaky knee. I think the knee might land. Jammer concerned about him fight. That's also true. Ilya just iced him not long ago. And like I said, I do think that Gamrot can hurt him as well. And yeah, and thank you, Daz. Appreciate you, bro. All right, guys. In terms of picks, we're going Lacerda, Polastri, but that's pre-tape. Walker, Rocha, but I'm not confident. Mesquita, Petrino, Carpenter, Almeida, Ofli, Pinto, Alvarez, but dog or pass, and I really want to play the dog. Montel, but dog or pass, and Gamrot. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Peace out and good luck this weekend.